25 years of impactful and independent journalism. Hello, and thank you for joining us from wherever you are. We are live from our studios in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. Our top stories this hour. Ghana's case count stays at 214, but results from 15,000 tests carried out are expected this week. What will it be? And military and police brutality mar success of lockdown enforcement as a man is killed by the gun of a soldier in Ashaiman. Residents are furious as they demand what they call independent investigations. We'll also hear from a disappointed president over behavior of some recalcitrant Ghanaians. And we touch base with the family of a frontline health worker as we assess the global coronavirus outlook. We're live in Europe as we look at the Queen's address to Great Britain and zoom in on Africa's coronavirus situation. These are top stories this hour. Join us on DSTV 421, GoTV 144. And remember, we're streaming live on YouTube. You can catch us there. Join us with your thoughts, opinions, suggestions, questions on 0540109009. My name is Gifty Andopia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. You're welcome to the details of those stories and more. This afternoon, we begin with a look at Ghana's case count. We know that it's at 214 so far. Well, these are the confirmed cases, 214. Of course, there is a breakdown of those who tested positive during the mandatory quarantine. But we understand President Akufo-Addo says 15,000 tests have been conducted and the results of those tests are expected. Let's take a look at the regional breakdown now. Greater Accra is leading with 189. In the Ashanti region, we're looking at 12 cases. The northern region remains 10. One person has bolted. She is still on the run and being sought after. Upper West recorded one at the Bogatanga Hospital at the maternity block, which is closed down today for fumigation. In the eastern region, we understand an Indian who is involved in construction work tested positive at a construction site. Tests are being done and persons that came into contact with him are being traced. And of course, let's take a look at the routine surveillance or the further breakdown of those figures. Confirmed cases 124. Those who have recovered are 3. Those who have been discharged to go to continue the treatment at home, 18. And those who are responding to treatment, they are well, we are told, are 96. 2 people are in critical condition. So far, 5 people have died. Regarding those who have been in mandatory quarantine, confirmed cases there, 80. 0 have recovered. Discharged people are 31, and those responding to treatment, I beg your pardon, are 49. Nobody is in critical condition and nobody has died. As you know, government said it started a program to send those who have finished the 14-day mandatory quarantine back home. Mandatory quarantine, those in Tamale, we have 10. They've all tested positive. None of them have recovered. We're told that they're responding to treatment, but we do know that one of them is still on the run. Nobody is in critical condition. None of them has died. That is the breakdown of Ghana's situation. In the meantime, government is awaiting the result of 15,384 tested for the coronavirus. According to President Akufo-Addo, the result could see a boom in the number of infected persons here in Ghana. The tested persons are among some 19,000 people reached through contact tracing.
And contact tracing have been ramped up over the course of the past week. Indeed, for every confirmed case of COVID-19, all the contacts have been listed, monitored, and tracked. Additionally, in the home or place of work of a confirmed case, all persons, be they at home or at work, have been tested, whether they had symptoms or not. Within the locality or neighborhood of a confirmed case, the opportunity is also being provided for persons to undergo voluntary testing to ascertain the extent of community spread. We're thus about to enter a critical phase of our fight in the coming week, as the Ghana Health Service is due to receive the results of some 15,384 out of 19,276 persons who have been reached through contact tracing. It is the results of these tests that will determine our future course of action. Government's policy and measures will continue to be driven by the science in this matter.
Earlier on News Desk today, we spoke to one of those released on Saturday. Wisdom Boer said his family was excited he was back home, but they are cautiously practicing social distancing. He also revealed information flow during the quarantine period made most of them very anxious.
First test results took over 6 days before they released the results to us. They didn't give us any official test to the results. But for the second test results, they released it, I think, after 3 days with official results to us. Our meals, which were cold, were actually made warm a bit. And also there was a bit more introduction of fruits and vegetables to the meals that they were giving us. And I think most of us were anxious because of the time they would let us go home. We didn't know who was negative or who was positive. And when we were called for our test results to be shared, they had arranged about 10 seats so that they will group us. So the way the nurse was actually directing us, it seemed as if one group was positive and one group was negative. So everybody was very anxious. Which group are you sending it to? Is it a positive group? Is it a negative group? Yeah. And I think the psychologists introduced some level of anxiety in trying to educate us on the COVID-19 before declaring the status of that group. So that whole period was very tense. People were very, very anxious. In fact, me, myself, I was sweating profusely.
Thankfully, he's home now and he's tested negative. Now, CEO of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Daniel Asare, says the facility has initiated processes to trace persons who might have come in contact with a doctor and nurse who tested positive for COVID-19 there. The nurse and doctor who work at the Department of Medicine and Child Health have been kept in isolation and we're told they're in stable condition.
As long as we are soldiers at the frontier, every fight has got casualties. Soldiers go to war and they come casualties. So as the civilians, but now the civilians and then the health staff are all having casualties everywhere in the world. Italy, UK, prime ministers, politicians are not exempted. Nobody is immunized. So here one crop for be a yes, we have one of our nurses who unfortunately has tested positive, and that we have done contact tracing, and all the staff that has come into contact with the departments have been screened and then put under surveillance. We've gone to their house to also screen their parents and then screen the household. So all those, anybody who gets, that's the protocol we do to make sure that not only herself or himself, but the neighborhood and the staff that he related with. So now we've done that, we've taken them to treatment centers and they are responding perfectly well to treatment. And we hope that they will soon test negative and join us.
Hopefully they will sooner than later. Meanwhile, the hospital has received some 300 PPEs worth 150,000 cedis from Stanbic Bank Ghana. CEO of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital again, Dr. Daniel Asari, says lack of PPEs is no longer an issue at Kolebu. He also assured the gesture is expected to reduce the fear and panic among healthcare workers there, as they would now have the PPEs required to work.
Okay, one of the things that I want to say is that the President, His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, yesterday said that he's going to provide for all frontline staff fighting COVID-19 with all what is needed to fight the disease. And the manifestation of that promise is what we are seeing today. Stanbic is our bank in Kolebu. They have been collecting all our money, and we rely on them, and they also rely on us for. So, we come straight away and say that what can we do to help Kolebu fight this? He said, if you can get gloves, if you can get masks, all these things, this 10 out of 10 are all PPEs. PPE is not only the cover-up. Gloves is a PPE, mask is a PPE, and they decided that they will bring an innovation by bringing a whole pack that contains all the 10, so that when you open it, straight away you can see more patients than you have ordinarily see when you have to go out one by one and pick all those items. So it's an innovation. You have 300 of them. Yesterday, the Ministry of Health also called us that the supplies have arrived, so we are going to temporary holding center in Tama to collect more. I know Her Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo's wife, the First Lady, has also called and promised that they are bringing some to add. So I want to say emphatically that the challenge of PPE is no more in Kolebu, and no one should use PPE as politics, PPE to add them, and PPE unavailability as an excuse to misbehave.
Dr. Sari there. And Hassan Andani was happy. He is the managing director of the bank. He's happy that the bank is helping those at the front line, especially health workers, carry out their duties effectively in these trying times.
Look, I think our warriors in this COVID-19 fight are our frontline workers. We know we're putting them through difficulty, but they have to stand for us. They have to stand for us. They have to stand for the country, and we want to encourage all of them, and especially for corporate Ghana and Standard Bank, we are all digging a little deeper to see what we can do to complement government's efforts to make their life on the streets, and in the hospitals, and at all the care centers a bit easier, so they can protect themselves and in the process save lives. So again, to encourage all of our frontline workers to stand for Ghana, stand for the future, save this country.
That's for the Greater Accra region. Let's move to the Ashanti region, where the Regional Health Directorate has been briefing the media on the latest figures of the COVID-19 cases. 12 cases have been recorded in that region, with 2 persons dying. Chief Executive Officer of the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, Dr. Oheneba Danso, said 1 patient on admission for COVID-19 has been discharged after he tested negative. But measures are in place to keep monitoring her in order to eliminate all threats.
Until yesterday, we had 1 patient in there who have been managed by us since the 20th of March. And as you were told last week, this patient has been doing very well. And in fact, last week, Monday, a week today, we repeated her test. Because of her very good clinical outlook, the intention was to prepare her for discharge. When we tested on Monday, she tested positive. So we decided that it was better to still keep her in. We repeated the test last week, Friday, and the test came out to be negative. To be doubly sure, we took another sample for Saturday, and that has also recorded negative results. In fact, for this patient, the major reason for her admission to Konfanochi was because of her own comorbidities. She had pre-existing conditions which made her a very high-risk patient having contracted the COVID-19 infection. So she's been mobilized home, testing negative, very well looking. But prior to that, because of our clinical requirements, I sent a team together with the regional monitoring team to the home to look at the home setting to see how best she will have a very well isolation setup, and that has been done. Every member of the household has been very well educated in terms of the protocols for having her back at home. Even though she has tested negative, she is going to remain in isolation for the next week or two, and our team will be visiting her as she continues to take her fluids and other related vitamins and medications. But for now, we think that she poses no or not much risk in the environment that she finds herself. As I speak, at the weekend, we tested 3 more people. They all came out to be negative. And currently, we have 2 for whom samples are being sent to the KCCR for testing.
Dr. Ohenebade, what PPEs have been important and a critical part of the conversation. While addressing that concern for PPEs for frontline workers, Dr. Ohenebade said the hospital is not in short supply, but he admits, however, that calls to increase stock is in the right direction.
As we have all come to know, I think the key thing for us has been the care for the frontline workers, the protection. I am pleased to indicate that to date, Konfanochi has not really suffered in terms of real shortages for the personal protective equipment. I think we could have more, because as we have always indicated, this is a pandemic. Probably we have not hit the peak yet. We don't know how far we are going to be stretched. So the call for more PPEs is in order, even though we have quite a good quantity in stock now. We have also designed a protocol for the use of the PPEs, because what we realized along the line was that there was some kind of misuse of PPEs, and especially in preparation for a more bigger exposition of the condition, we have to make a very judicious use of the PPEs. So we have actually designed a protocol which has been disseminated in the hospital as to who wears what and at what time, just to make sure that we utilize the PPEs in accordance to the protocol. And I'm sure that for you from the media, we all listened to the presidential broadcast last night. Another major concern has now assuaged the difficulties and the misunderstandings in the health sector, more especially among the health staff. I'm saying health staff because as has been clearly redefined. When we say frontline workers, it's about everybody working in the health sector today. And I mean everybody. My understanding is that even the private sector is covered. Because the point is that for a pandemic, any patient can appear anywhere at any given point in time. We want to assure and reassure and to embolden our staff just so that they will hold themselves in readiness to treat our patients. And the presidential package that came, as we heard, covered all health staff who work within the health sector of Ghana. I'm sure the details you know. In addition to this, is going to be that core frontline. In fact, I have said in Konfanochi that all of us are frontline staff. But the fact that we come to work, and for somebody's work, he has to wear a headgear, head cover, nose mask, overall, a special boot, distinguish or differentiates the kind of work and exposure that we are all coming into contact with the condition. So those are the kind of differentiation that you have over there. I must say that we are very, very grateful, especially for those of us managers at the various facilities, because the presidential offer or package, for me, will go a very long way to actually assure our staff, not necessarily because they want to risk. I have always said that these packages come to motivate us and to get us very well refreshed in terms of our commitment to the work. But more importantly, as I have always indicated, it's our personal protection. Because if you even fall sick and you get all the money in this world, I don't think that is what we are looking for.
That is the update from Kumasi. All of us are frontline workers, like you said, and that's why here on this show we have a segment that's dedicated entirely to frontline workers. We'll be getting to that shortly. But it is normal to panic once you notice symptoms that could be possibly linked to that of the pandemic COVID-19. The first thought will be to rush to the hospital for a checkup. However, Deputy Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Anthony Adufo-Ofosu, is advising the general public that once you notice these symptoms, call the emergency number 112 for help rather than rush to the hospital. In an interview with JoyNews during a donation made by the National Association of Registered Midwives, he said this is crucial to prevent the health workers or the health centers from being swamped with cases.
The other thing that also we talk about that is also critical is that we need to protect our health facilities. What I mean is that the instruction is that if you have any of the symptoms that we've mentioned, if you have a fever, you have a cough, you have a sore throat, you have bodily pains, or you've been in contact with somebody from outside, don't go to the health facility. Stay at home and call the number 112 and you'll be helped. You'll get help to you. If you go to the health facility, you compromise the whole health facility, including the staff. So that sometimes the staff who come into contact with such patients need to be self-quarantined for 14 days. And that means that workers are not available. Sometimes we have to close down a whole unit, like we did for the emergency room in Ridge Hospital. And you know that there are other conditions that people get even during this time that needs care. So that if we compromise the health facilities, then we are reducing access. So let's stick to the health education messages that we are given, that when you feel sick, don't move to the health facility with symptoms that are similar to what we've been talking about as COVID. Stay at home and call 112, and then we'll get to you and support you.
Now, President of the National Association of Registered Midwives, Hajia Widwana Hawa Amakweje, expresses concern over the challenges that midwives across the country face in performing their duties and practicing social distancing at the same time. She appealed to government to put measures in place to make it easy for midwives while they're on duty.
On the whole, it consists of 2,550 pieces of hand sanitizers, and then 2,550 pieces of antiseptics, which they call Dettol, then 2,550 pieces of Rozone, which is Parazone, then 2,550 pieces of liquid detergent, which they can use to manage at least whatever small way it could. We know the system we have in Ghana here doesn't encourage this distance, social distance. Yeah, when you go to the antenatal clinics, it is crowded. The postnatal clinics, it is crowded. Patients continue to come in from the communities to see our midwives. Initially, we were practicing the focus antenatal, which is one-on-one with your patient. Now the patient comes in, can she sit directly before you? It's all frightening. Yesterday, we met the Honorable Minister of Health, and I've reported this issue to him, that our system in Ghana doesn't permit the social distance. Patients will come and we are crowded on the bench. If it's 5 on the bench, 6 on the bench, where do the others stand? They haven't provided extra chairs or furniture for us, for them to sit, So it is the crowding system which we are still working, midwives are working in. And he said they are going to look into it and then action will be taken.
Well, in a related development, the Ghana Registered Nurses Association says it wants the stimulus package announced by President Akufo-Addo for frontline health workers to cover every nurse and not only those exposed to COVID-19. As you heard Dr. Hiniba say earlier, everybody, including those in the private sector, are all frontline workers in these times because any patient at all can walk up to you. To get a better understanding, General Secretary of the Association, David Tinkran Chum, joins us via Skype. Mr. Chum.
Hello.
Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Let's take a look at the groups. I mean, what's your understanding of what the president said? Do you get the feeling that it doesn't include people that you are referring to?
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. Yeah, of course, the package that but we are of the view that it should end because the definition of a frontline staff or a frontline healthcare worker is not limited only to the one who is directly taking care of the patient. Mind you, people come to the hospital or our facilities and they are asymptomatic. Now, that tells you that they pose a risk to everybody that they come in contact with. So what we are saying is that government should expand the scope of the frontline staff or the frontline workers to include every healthcare worker. So the risk is shared to all of us equally. You can find yourself in a chip center as a community health, and somebody can come to you, assess symptoms, and may pose a risk to you. A typical example is the lady that was discovered Upper West or Upper East, excuse me. A pregnant lady. It presupposes that perhaps she might have attended an antenatal, and a midwife has attended up. So the risk is varied. So the position that the information minister was seeking to posit, to me, is untenable. And we want, as government, to review the scope.
You want government to review the scope. Well, I will play back the president, perhaps, if we do get it, so we have an understanding whether or not in his announcement he restricted this insurance package to only people who are working directly with persons who have contracted COVID-19. But if that is the case, how exactly are you hoping to engage to get your concerns heard, for example?
Yeah, we want to seek further and better clarification. We think that, as we earlier on, all nurses and midwives, by extension, all healthcare workers are at risk. Now, I reckon the fact that those who are directly taking care of the patients can be compensated in a certain way. But you see, what people don't know that when somebody presents asymptomatically but has the disease, poses considerable risk to the healthcare provider. If I know that you have the disease or you are suspected case, I know how to protect myself to render the kind of services that you require. But what about the one who and is not showing any sign and symptom. You have to meet the person, interact with the person before you get to realize that the individual meets the case definition.
Yeah.
Okay. In that process, you would have compromised yourself. What we think is that government should expand. They can graduate it. Okay, so if you are giving 50%, those who are directly nursing these patients, we agree. But a certain percentage can go to every healthcare worker, from the nurse to the midwife, the matron, or anybody who works in the hospital, whether CHIP center or health center or a district hospital or a regional hospital. A case in point, what happened at Rich Hospital where 40 nurses have been quarantined right now, the patient did not end up at the isolation center. The patient was sent to the emergency unit. Can we say that those nurses that were at the emergency unit are part of the frontline healthcare workers or not? So that is our argument, and we think that government must look at it for the second time.
Right. Well, these are early days yet. President Akufo-Addo just made that announcement yesterday. And so hopefully, as you are hoping to engage for further clarification, you'll be able to get that further clarification, and perhaps we'll take it from there. But what has been your personal, before we go, what has been your personal experience in these COVID-19 times?
All right. We have gone around, interacted with some of our colleagues from the pre-triage area to the triage area, the admission centers, and some of the emergency centers. There's that kind of despondency. You don't have all the necessary equipment to work. We recognize that at various levels of risk. So you don't need a full PPE to sit at the pre-triage area. But at least the minimum protection or protective equipment must be available so that you can be confident enough to take care of the patients.
Mr. Tinkwan, thank you very much. This will be
for now.
Go ahead, make that point.
Yeah, as I said, the package is commendable, but I believe that it should listen to us, and that all we can pull together. It's not the time to, confusion or to be seen supportive or collaborative of government efforts, but it's appropriate that they listen to us and do what we are asking.
I'm sure they will listen. Like I said, let's keep this engagement going and let's see how it goes. Like I said again, here on this show, we have a segment that's totally dedicated to persons like yourself who are working out there in the health sector, reaching out to every sick person that comes who may or may not have COVID-19. And so be sure, be certain that your work is appreciated and it is not going unacknowledged. We'll certainly will have more of this conversation. This is not the last of it. We'll see what government response is to this request. This is still The Pulse with me, Gifty Andopia. I just spoke to David Tinkwan, who's the secretary of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwifery Association. They want a broader scope of what it is that a frontline worker is in these times. We'll take a very quick break. When we return, we'll take a look at the global situation. We'll first make a stop in Europe, Germany, to be specific, where Thomas Sparrow is standing by for us. Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Like I said, we're doing the global outlook and we're starting with our partners in Europe, Germany to be specific. Thomas Sparrow is political correspondent with our partners DW, and he's standing by, joining us from home. Thomas, it's good to have you. Once I see this background, I know you're not in the office, you're at home. I'm just learning that the Germany, for example, has recorded 10,315 cases so far. 1,597 of those people have died. But people still talk about COVID-19 and still cite Germany as one of the countries that have dealt with this pandemic very efficiently. Why is this so?
Gifty, nice to talk to you, and you're right. This time I'm talking to you from home and not from the studio where we normally talk, and that has to do, obviously, as you know, with the restrictions that are in place here in Germany. German authorities have been asking us and asking everyone actually to stay at home as much as possible and to restrict our social interactions, because they believe that is the best way that the number of infections can actually be reduced, or new infections can be prevented. And in fact, those restrictions will be in place at least until April 19th. The German government has said that it is obviously planning a way out of all this, but they're not ready to give a date when these restrictions will end, because they still see the situation as a very difficult one, and they still see the need for people to carry on with these restrictions, in particular now that Easter is coming up. In fact, Angela Merkel, the Chancellor, has said that people will have to get used to the fact that this coming Easter will be very different from any other Easter they've experienced, and they won't be able to travel to their friends and families. Now, specifically to the question that you've asked me about why Germany may have so many infected people. In fact, Germany today reached the 100,000 mark of infected people according to the Johns Hopkins ranking, but at the same time has a comparatively low number of deaths, and that has to do specifically, Gifty, with, on the one hand, Germany's health system. Germany has many free beds, for example, more beds than other countries to try and cope and treat some of the affected patients. On the other hand, to the number of tests. Germany is carrying out up to 500,000 tests a week, and that actually allows the country to identify people who have been infected, who may not have very big symptoms, who may even have no symptoms at all, and that in turn can help stop them from infecting other people here in Germany. So that gives you an idea of why Germany may have such a high number of infected people. Germany is one of the most affected in the world and most affected in Europe, and yet at the same time the number of deaths is comparatively low if you look, for example, at the number of deaths in countries like Spain or like Italy.
Well, so Thomas, I see the issue of or the solution to this situation from what you're saying has been that the existence of more beds in hospitals, so more availability of hospital facilities to take in people, and also more testing. But testing is one of the biggest problems for, in fact, all the countries that have been affected, because testing kits are not easy to come by. For Germany, is it that they've just been able to procure a lot of testing kits, or is it that it was just available even before? Because I don't think it was available before. How is Germany able to do these tests that you say?
Germany understood very fast and very quickly, in fact, when the situation was very bad, for example, in China, but not as bad here in Europe, that one of the ways out of this was precisely by developing those tests, by trying to acquire some of those tests and trying to make them available to as many people as possible. In fact, you don't have to pay anything here in Germany if you want to have one of those tests. They are covered by the general health insurance companies here, and as such, this is something that has allowed those tests to be conducted in a very big way. As I said before, Germany, according to health officials, is being able to carry around 500,000 tests a week. This has been growing in recent weeks, and that is one of the main policies, if you will, from the federal government, but also from the regional governments, to try and identify the people who are infected and try and make sure that by knowing who is infected, obviously Germany won't be able to know everyone who is infected, as not any country is going to be able to do that, but by trying to identify as many people as possible, that will help, on the one hand, as I said already before, to identify people who have low or no symptoms, on the other hand also to prevent them from infecting other people, and the third element is obviously to try and make sure that the health system as such is as free as possible. That's that idea that probably you've heard, Gifty, of trying to flatten or reduce, make sure that this goes for a period of time, and that in that period of time the health system in Germany is capable and available to treat those who are infected and is under no circumstance overwhelmed. That is the big challenge of the health system here, and by the way, that's the big challenge of health systems in general, how to flatten that curve.
How to flatten that curve also depends on how many people we know have COVID-19, and that boils down to testing. In Germany, can anybody just get tested? Who can be tested in Germany? Do you have to meet the case definition, or if I just want to be tested, I feel uncomfortable, I can just walk up to any hospital and get tested?
As in many countries in the world, Gifty, those tests are being reserved mostly, but obviously not exclusively, to people who have very bad symptoms, who authorities are trying to test. And this has to do with the fact that obviously not everyone who shows any symptom can be tested in any hospital here in the country. So that gives you an idea of what priority the government is having when it comes to these specific tests. And 500,000 tests a week, that is across the country, that is obviously affecting many people throughout this country, and as such it is a policy that the government has been implementing to try and make sure that those who are most at risk, or those who have the biggest symptoms, can actually be tested. It is not necessarily the case that you can just simply go to any hospital here and get a test. In fact, there are many reports of people who would like to have the test, who feel that they have the symptoms, but who are not allowed or cannot have the test. The idea is, if people feel that they have any related symptoms, the first thing that they should do is try and isolate at home. Try and make sure that they do not have contact to other people. Try to make sure that if they have to work, they work from home. And only as a second step, once they speak on the phone to their specific doctor or the health authorities, can the health authorities determine whether a specific test is needed, or whether, for example, the person does not have the coronavirus but has just a normal flu, which is also typical in this part of the world and in this time of the year. So that gives you an idea of how the system works here in Germany. Again, not exclusive to Germany, it happens in a similar way elsewhere.
Two final questions, Thomas, and one is that here in Ghana there are restrictions on movement, and you've said that as well, that in Germany there are restrictions on movement, but right behind you I've seen a lot of people moving, I've seen vehicles moving, I've seen people riding their bicycles, people taking a walk and all of that. You've said already that it is not compulsory, the restrictions, but how would you assess the response of the people to these restrictions? Here in Ghana, we're having a major challenge with people still going out there without any apparent reason. How different will the story in Germany be?
There have in fact been polls, Gifty, that show that the vast majority of Germans are in favor of the measures that have been implemented by the government. Up to 95% believe that it is important to have this social distancing, and many have obviously been following rules imposed by the government, the federal and the regional governments, very strictly. There are, as in any case, obviously exceptions, and that's why you often also see authorities, police for example, in the parks, especially now the weather's so lovely here, asking people to keep their social distancing, to maintain the necessary distance between them and other groups. You can't go out here with more than one other person unless you have a big family, for example, so you can't have big groups here on the street. Mostly you see only 2 people at a time walking on the street. But it's important to understand what the German government has actually implemented, because in other countries you have full quarantines. In other countries people are not allowed to go out basically under any condition, just for example to go to the supermarket, to go to the pharmacy. Here in Germany you do have these restrictions. As I said already, Gifty, those restrictions are in place until the 19th of April, but it does not mean that you actually have to stay all the time at home. People can still go out to work, for example. You see some people behind me already on their bikes. There's a park not far away from here, and especially now with all this weather, you see people outside running, jogging, or playing some sort of sports, always keeping, as I said, this social distancing. So that's how this works here. People are asked to stay at home as much as possible. They are asked to follow the rules by the government. But on the other hand, people, and especially the government, understands that this is something that people are following in many ways voluntarily. And that's why the big challenge actually comes in the next few days, when you have all the Easter holidays here. That's a traditional few days where people tend to travel, where people tend to visit their relatives, where people tend to be outdoors. It is absolutely beautiful weather, spring weather here, and this will be the big challenge here in Germany, to see if people actually do follow those rules by the government and stay at home, or if they do not stay at home because they go out, for example, to the park, that they still keep that social distancing. The government has said, and I reiterate, that it is absolutely vital to keep that social distancing if the numbers are to be kept as low as possible.
Certainly, I was going to, you just answered my final question, which was about the Easter, because I know that Germany is a you know, very, it's a predominantly Christian country, and so they take some of these occasions very seriously, and also how a good and beautiful weather like this, how much it means to people who live in predominantly cold weather. And so I was just going to ask you about how Easter will look like, but you've answered that question already, Thomas. I'll leave you to it, and I'm sure that the day after tomorrow, we'll be back to find out whether the situation has changed. Correspondent with our partners, DW, there joining us all the way from Berlin. From home, to be specific, from where he is working. He said that German Chancellor Angela Merkel says Easter will not be the same for them. Well, let's go to another powerful woman in the world, the Queen Elizabeth. What is she saying? She says that she hopes the coronavirus crisis will prove this generation is as strong as any other. In a rare special address to Commonwealth, she urged Britons and all Commonwealth members to value self-discipline and resolve during the crisis. The monarch also used the address to thank frontline health workers for their dedication.
Speaking to you at what I know is an increasingly challenging time, a time of disruption in the life of our country, a disruption that has brought grief to some, financial difficulties to many, and enormous changes to the daily lives of us all. I want to thank everyone on the NHS frontline, as well as care workers and those carrying out essential roles, who selflessly continue their day-to-day duties outside the home in support of us all. I'm sure the nation will join me in assuring you that what you do is appreciated, and every hour of your hard work brings us closer to a return to more normal times. I also want to thank those of you who are staying at home, thereby helping to protect the vulnerable and sparing many families the pain already felt by those who have lost loved ones. Together we are tackling this disease, and I want to reassure you that if we remain united and resolute, then we will overcome it. I hope in the years to come, everyone will be able to take pride in how they responded to this challenge. And those who come after us will say the Britons of this generation were as strong as any, that the attributes of self-discipline, of quiet, good-humoured resolve, and of fellow feeling still characterize this country. The pride in who we are is not a part of our past. It defines our present and our future. The moments when the United Kingdom has come together to applaud its care and essential workers will be remembered as an expression of our national spirit, and its symbol will be the rainbows drawn by children. Across the Commonwealth and around the world, we have seen heartwarming stories of people coming together to help others.
That's Queen Elizabeth there with that speech to inspire the whole of Britain and also for the Commonwealth countries. And of course, Ghana is a part of those. Well, let's look at the situation in the United States, where a medical center on April 1 had more than 80% of patients infected with the coronavirus. And doctors and nurses feared the worst is actually yet to come. The Washington Post went on shift in a New York hospital overwhelmed by coronavirus patients to speak to an infectious disease physician, Monica Gitan. Here is a report.
This is a battlefield, and we've turned ourselves from nurses into soldiers. We all took an oath, and we all have a responsibility to our patients. This is what we were born to do. So even if it's a little scary, this is something that has actually unified us, because we're all going through the same thing together. Because of COVID-19, we have changed our visiting policy to not allowing most visitors. It was a very difficult decision to make, but it's a decision that was necessary to keep our patients safe.
It's just unbelievable to see the devastation that it's causing, and I think also as a nurse, besides the chaos that's in the hospital and what we need to do to see the patients without their families here, to know that they're alone. During quote-unquote normal times in nursing, we see the patients with the family around them. In this situation, we can't be in there that often. We go in when we have to go in because we will be exposed, obviously, and we do everything we need, but each time we go in, it's to let them know, hey, I'm here. You're not by yourself.
I think everybody's afraid. Life at the end of this, hopefully we'll all make it, life at the end of this will be very, very different. The way that we're looking at what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, the way that we're looking at our colleagues, it's gonna be different. There's gonna be so much lost, so much life lost. You know, it's eye-opening to be right there to help your patients, prepare to help your patients, and be powerless. One of the reasons that always attracted me to ID is the fact that we cure people. We make people better. We give them medication and they go home and they enjoy their life. And now we have very little, if anything, to give. And it's heartbreaking.
You have a lot of deaths, you have a lot of people who are, not in the extremes of age, who are getting sick, and now is not the time to allow ourselves to become overwhelmed or to allow ourselves to become, emotionally distraught. I mean, it's the time for the physicians and the nurses and everybody to be soldiers and carry through to the end. And this is what we share with with all the residents, the younger trainees, and that's what needs to happen if we want to get through this and save as many people as possible.
Positivity can heal a person, and I think that's really what nursing is about.
It's to guide your footsteps, give them the wisdom they need to treat this virus.
We have completely pulled together every single morning. We pray in Islam, we pray in the Christian faith, we pray in the Jewish faith. We include everybody, and we pray every single morning as a team.
Every member of this team into your hands, in Jesus' name.
Amen. That's why we have a lot of windows. I don't know if you noticed in our unit, we have a lot of windows. If someone is sad,
that will negatively impact their care. I mean, this is pure in the books evidence-based practice for nursing. But if someone's happy and they're positive and they're joyful, they're gonna do better. Many COVID patients pass away, but you can't determine that others won't do well. So even though we've seen deaths occur, we've also seen people do better. And that's what we have to hold on to, is that hope that people will do better. And we have to treat them with the expectation that they will.
This is a global outlook at COVID-19 here on the Pulse. Very soon we'll do Frontline, and we'll also take a look at what's happening in Nigeria before we do Frontline. Let me take a very quick break. I'll be right back. Do stay with us. To celebrate our frontline health workers now for the efforts that they put into saving lives during this pandemic. Yesterday, government announced a special package for health workers at the forefront of COVID-19 fight here in this country. President Akufo-Addo said there are several packages being put together to motivate those risking their lives to save a nation. He announced that insurance package for health workers yesterday. Listen.
An insurance package with an insurance sum of 350,000 cedis for each health personnel and allied professional at the forefront of the fight has been put in place, with a daily allowance of 150 cedis being paid to contact tracers. Government has also decided that all health workers will not pay taxes on their emoluments for the next 3 months, i.e. April, May, and June. Furthermore, all frontline health workers will receive an additional allowance of 50% of their basic salary per month, i.e. for March, April, May, and June. The March allowance will be paid alongside that of April. The Ministry of Transport is also making available for free Ayalolo buses to convey health workers in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, and Kanswa to and from work along specific routes for the entire duration of the restrictions. I'm happy that operators of public transport, such as trotros and taxis, are largely adhering to the admonition to observe social distancing in their vehicles. Each one of them should do so.
Well, are you a health worker? What do you make of these packages? We've heard from the Nurses and Midwiferys Association asking for better clarity. They want to know who forms a part of this team of core workers or core frontline workers. Would love to hear from you on our WhatsApp number 0540109009 with your comment. Well, we will also be engaging some doctors here today. You've heard the Ghana Association again, the Ghana Association of Doctors in Residency, appealing to the general public to support them as they put together their members to provide protective equipment, PPEs, to aid the fight against coronavirus pandemic, especially in the hinterland. They have partnered with us here at Multimedia Group Limited to seek your support in this fight. President of the Ghana Association of Doctors in Residency, Dr. Bernard Hammond, joins me via phone right now. Hello, Dr. Hammond.
Hello.
Right, so for those who have not really followed this conversation, tell us again what this campaign is really about.
Can you please take it again?
Yes,
I can barely hear you from my end.
I'm going to ask for an update on the campaign that we're partnering with you on, but I want to find out from you, so you tell those who have not followed the conversation what really this is all about.
Hello?
Right, Dr. Hammond, do you hear me?
Hello?
Dr. Hammond, can you hear me?
Yes, your volume is so low, I can barely hear you.
Let's try this again. If you do hear me, I want you to share with our viewers what this campaign, this drive to raise funds to purchase PPEs, especially for those in the hinterlands, is really about, and how it even came about in the first place?
So if I can hear you, you want to know the rationale behind our campaign. Well, as frontline health workers, I represent an interest group. Residents are on the forefront of health delivery mostly in teaching hospitals and training centers of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. So that's a very important interest group that are constantly on the front line, being exposed to any disease that come in. Therefore, the coronavirus or the COVID pandemic is no exception at all. What we realized was that on the forefront, we didn't have the appropriate equipment to deal with this virus, even as it comes into our facilities. A majority of people will come in asymptomatic. They will come in that they are not showing any symptoms. They are not coughing. They don't have any fever. They are definitely not showing. They may even come in accompanying someone else who they deem to be sick. But these are all people that we have to look out for. So the basic recommended equipment for health workers in any medical facility is a face mask, an appropriate gear. You step up depending on which area of the hospital that you are dealing with, or whether you are dealing with a confirmed case or it's just a suspected case. So realize that our people didn't have the appropriate equipment to deal with this pandemic as it comes. So we decided to mount a campaign. Yes, we know that government is doing its best to get these items in. Some facilities also have some in, but we decided to appeal to corporate Ghana, corporate institutions, and also to the general public to support us, even as we take up the direct purchases of these personal protective equipment, and also to get it to our people on the front line. So this is going to cover both doctors, nurses, anyone on the front line who is coming in contact with patients, whether suspected or confirmed COVID patients. So that's the rationale behind our campaign.
That's an interesting point you make there, and we are hopeful. I mean, we here on this show have dedicated a whole segment to everybody that's working at the front lines, and so we're hopeful that this will indeed make the necessary impacts. Would you tell us how it is going so far? Of course, you started this a couple of days back.
Okay, so we are basically using a short code that was generated. We are in partnership with Occupy Ghana, Ghana Medical Association, and IT Consortium, and we've set up a short code that is *887*10# that people can just make donations from, regardless of the network that you are using, just across board. Some of the networks are very, very magnanimous. They are waiving off all charges. SLC Go should be commended primarily in this regard, that they are waiving all charges that you make to our platform. So you just do, it's a very straightforward procedure. You just use the short code and make any donation. And you can also make it a recurring donation. So it's not a one-time thing. You have the option to choose either to do a one-time donation or have recurring, so that you set the frequency. Whenever the time is due, it just does an automatic deduction for you. Another way that we've been going about it is we are publicizing. We've opened an account specifically for this with Stanbic Bank that you can make direct transfers to that account. We also are open to receiving the equipment directly, either face masks, coveralls, shoe covers, disposable gowns, whatever anyone is giving, sanitizers. We are open to receiving these ones. So our numbers are always available, and our officers are always, you just contact us, send us a message on our Facebook page, Ghana Association of Doctors in Residency. We will reach out and find ways of retrieving these items for use by our frontline health workers.
Well, here at the multimedia group, JoyNews to be specific, we're also coming on board to find out how we can, provide this bigger platform where we get everybody else on board to get to do this. So we'll put on the phone or on the TV the short code. Doc Hammond, I'll have you go through the short code for me again, whilst we encourage people to get hooked onto it and to send in their donation. Give us the numbers and then the short code again.
887 *10 #. That's *887 *10 #. And Facebook page is Ghana Association of Doctors in Residence. You can just drop a message and we'll do a follow-up immediately.
So that's *887 *10 #.
Yes, 10.
*887 *10 #. That's how you can donate to the Ghana, to the doctors in residency who are hoping to raise funds to buy PPEs for health facilities. You can also go on your Facebook page and you can drop them a message and they will follow up. You want to say something again, Doc?
Yes, I want to appeal to, we are very grateful to
I lost you there briefly. Do you want to say that? I lost you there briefly. Do you want to say that again?
Yes. Yes. So we are very grateful to Salon Brante of Imani. He started a partnership, got us PPEs, Rotary Club Ghana also flowed up, also got us some PPEs. We've made donations also to Rage Hospital, Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Rage. We've also made donations to some departments in Kolebu. We sent a donation to Tamale Teaching Hospital just today, and we are open. We've received tests from the Ghana Maritime Authority, Lexta Ghana. We gave us tissue and soap, sanitizers. We are so much grateful. And IT Consortium, they provided that platform for us free of charge. We are so grateful to them. And we also appeal to corporate Ghana. They can come on board, support us in this regard.
Just so we set people's mind at ease, this account is being audited. Tell us a bit more about that, so people know that whatever they're sending, there isn't any cause for worry, and that's their donations are safe.
Yes, let me add that that account and all donations, whether monetary or fiscal donations in the form of PPEs coming in, is being monitored and audited by PricewaterhouseCoopers. They are in charge, they are tracking everything that comes in, and also whatever is going out, they are monitoring and they are presenting reports to trustees. And we have a partnership between ourselves, the Ghana Medical Association, Occupy Ghana, and also IT Consortium, with PricewaterhouseCoopers being the organization that is auditing all of us.
Yesterday, President Kufuor made some announcement. I don't know if Gado also heard about it and what you make of it, really.
Okay, he made an announcement that some PPEs are coming. Some quantities were mentioned. We are so much grateful to what the president is given to frontline workers. But as the saying goes, we are like Obi-Wan. We always come asking for more. The pandemic is still evolving. We are still expecting the results of about. He mentioned about over 15,000 people. We don't know the status. Is this that we don't know how many are going to be positive? It's going to overwhelm resources as of now. So we are always asking for more to have on us, so that we'll be able to deliver our best, even as we attend to our patients in this time of crisis.
In these times of crisis, we also know that people who work on the front lines, like yourself, doctors who come into contact constantly with people who are sick, you are human beings as well. You have your own problems to deal with. You have your own yourself at risk of being contaminated. Some of your colleagues indeed have contracted the COVID-19. for you, what is your personal story?
So I think it's a victory each time I'm able to wake up and get out of my house and come to work, because summoning that courage to get out of bed, not because almost everyone else is under lockdown, and it's just the essential services and people who are at post. It's like going onto the war front. You don't know which form the enemy is going to be. Is it going to be the next patient that you are attending to? Is it going to be your colleague who you are having a discussion with about the patient? Is it going to be your senior colleague who is giving you instructions on what to do? You have no idea at all. So we are all just being cautious and also looking at these as an add-on protection, the equipment as an add-on protection for us. But each time any health worker is able to move from your house to your place of work, I think is victory that should be claimed.
That should be claimed. It's interesting the way you put it that way. How does this play out with your family?
Interestingly, my wife and I are both health workers. So each time in the morning when we are stepping out, we just remind each other that we should be careful even as we step out. We never know. We try and communicate with each other during the day, but the day never ends till we all meet back at home, try and find out what happened with the day, try and see whether there were any lapses in our interactions and all, and admonish each other to be on the lookout, because we never know. Now, we can't visit other family members who are around, because we don't know who we have been exposed to. So we are keeping, especially the elderly members of our family, keeping them at bay, just talking to them on phone and going about our business.
Well, I would love for us to have a Skype with you one of these days, so we get more into the experiences.
Sure.
And that's what we want to do with this segment that we've created here on this show. We want to look at the personal, get very personal with those of you at the front lines and celebrate you for the risk that you're putting yourself through to get other people saved. So, Dr. Hammond, thank you. Well, this is an ongoing partnership that we're hoping to do with you, and so definitely we'll be doing more as we get people to donate more towards this cause. Dr. Bernard Hammond there, he's president of the Ghana Association of Doctors in Residency. They're hoping to raise funds to buy PPEs, and PPEs has been a big problem the world over. Every country seems to have an issue with it. Now, the earlier we stock up, since we are not there, the overwhelming or the tipping point yet, the better. And that's why here at Multimedia we're hoping to be a part of this drive to get bring this platform to bring a lot more people on board to provide this assistance to purchase the PPEs. So how are families of these frontline health workers coping with the situation? You heard the question that I asked Dr. Hammond and the answer he had to give. They had to keep all the external family members at bay in these times. You've heard stories also of how some health workers have had to isolate themselves from their families, even their own children. The fear, panic, and anxiety among family members all comes to play. Today, we're connecting with a doctor and her husband. It's quite a young family. They have a daughter. Dr. Abigail Isuman is a medical officer at the Koi Pediatrics. Her husband, Mr. Andrew Isuman, both of them join us today. It's good to see you too. How are you doing?
Hi, we're fine.
Great. So let's start with you, Dr. Isuman. How has it been for you since the outbreak of COVID-19?
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for having us, your viewers as well. It's been okay. We are managing well. We are short of, but I think they are doing well. But generally, Ghana is what to do.
You're generally, say that again. I think I lost you briefly.
Ghana isn't behind other West African countries.
Right.
We are doing well, but then we have more room for improvement.
Okay, so you are the doctor. Your husband is not a doctor, correct? Okay, so I want you to take us through what used to happen when, we were in normal times, when you leave home and when you come back home, the relationship at home, and how that has changed with the outbreak of COVID-19? Hi, Dr. Suman, did you hear me? Okay, I think that you didn't hear me, so I'm just going to repeat what I just said. I said for you to take us through what happens every day, what used to happen when we weren't in these COVID-19 times, how you leave for work and how you return home, and how COVID-19 has changed that, your relationship with your husband, your children, your child. Do take us through it.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. We hear you. Looks like everybody else is connecting via Skype and everybody else is doing something online, and that's sort of putting a bit of pressure, if you like, on the bandwidth. But you can reach us with your thoughts, your comments. If you have any encouraging words for Dr. Esuman and her family, you can reach us on 054-010-9009. That's 054-010-9009. 009. I'd like to take your messages. Like I said, I've been asking for you to please do not call the line. Do not call the line. I'll ask you also to be sending in some of your videos. Do a short video of yourself, acknowledging the work that our frontline workers are doing and perhaps pledging to stay at home, because that's one of the sure ways to help. Those are the front lines. Now, the more you stay at home, the slower it is for the virus to spread, and the less pressure there is on the frontline workers, being it health workers or security workers. Well, trying to connect with the family of a Dr. Esuman. We're trying to find out and share in her experience and how life has changed. These are the people who ought to be there for you when you get sick. But what happens when they get sick, and how do they themselves handle their everyday situation so they will stay healthy? Dr. Esuman is my guest here on Frontline, and we're hoping to reach them back on, to raise them back on the line. We lost them briefly, but do send your messages and your WhatsApp messages coming through to the number I shared with you on 0540-109009. Yesterday, President Akufo-Addo made some announcement, very interesting announcement. Lots of people have welcomed it. They say that health personnel are supposed to receive some very good incentives. I'll also find out from Dr. Esuman how she feels about that. But already we've spoken to the Nursing and Midwifery Association. They are excited about it, but they seem to be confused as to whether or not they are included. Who falls under that umbrella is something they're seeking to have a lot more clarity on. You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty Andropia. We've been on Skype with a doctor and her small family, trying to get into the mind of people at the front lines here on Frontline on The Pulse. I do have Dr. Esuman joining us via phone instead. Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Sorry about that connection on Skype. That's not been very smooth. But I was asking you to take us through your day, as it used to be before COVID-19, and how the COVID-19 outbreak has changed it, your relationship with your husband, your child. How has COVID-19 changed?
So basically, I go to work in the morning, and he usually comes to pick me up. He drives, so he usually comes to pick me up. And hello?
Yes, go ahead. We hear you.
Okay. So he usually comes to pick me up, and when he picks me up, we exchange pleasantries. Sometimes I kiss, then we drive to the house. And when I get home, I wash my hands and I take my baby from my mom. But now When he comes to the hospital, the first thing he asks is, have you washed your hands? And even if I said yes, he will still give me a hand sanitizer to wash my hands. And then when we get home, my mom knows. She's the one who opens the door. We have a liquid soap at the gate. We have a tap at the gate. So I have to wash my hands with the liquid soap at the gate before I get in. When I get in, my mom goes to the other room with my baby so that I don't touch her. But she's 10 months old. So immediately she hears the sound of the engine, she starts crying. So she will cry from the time I get in. I'll have to I wash my hands at the gate, then I get to the bathroom straight up to wash down. And she will cry till I come out for her. And yes, that's basically one of the main difficult parts of this whole situation, because I cannot touch my daughter till I've washed down and I've sanitized everything. My husband as well, we all get in, wash at the gate, then go to the bathroom before we touch the baby.
Okay, does that cause you any emotional distress, or is it a situation that you've just quickly really adjusted to?
I'm not used to it because my baby cries. The crying alone is a stress. It's like she's crying, and my mom would say, "Oh, can't and she would be screaming. She knows the way to the bathroom, so she will try and crawl and come to the bathroom. It's very distressing. As of now, we haven't gotten used to it, but I think it needs time. Yes, that's all I can say. And
of course, it's a necessary action that you need to take to protect her as well, to protect your husband as well. But is your husband concerned? I don't know if he'll be able to speak to us, but does he feel concerned that his wife is at the front line? I mean, all of us are exposed to this, but when you are particularly and exceptionally exposed to people who may have it, that puts you in a different category. To what extent is your husband worried about this?
Yes, so thank you very much. Like Dr. Hammond, who you spoke to a couple of minutes ago, rightly said, if you have any of the frontline workers come home safely, then it's a victory for you. It's very difficult for me because I always have to call her to be checking up on her. Immediately she gets to work, what's the first thing I do is, have you worn your mask? And she'll send me a video or she'll send me a picture to actually show me that she's worn her mask. And then have you sanitized your hands? So constantly in the day, I would have to be checking up on her. But before the pandemic, we could do maybe twice in a day or something because of the stress involved in our jobs as individuals. But this has actually inconvenienced us in a lot of ways, like I just explained. Yeah. So I'm always thinking, is she going to get into contact with a patient who would transfer this virus to us as a family? Because my mother-in-law is with us, and then my baby is also here. Yeah. So I'm always on the lookout and always praying that she gets home safely without contacting the virus. Thank you.
Have you at any point thought of making her stay at home for a while, just to reduce the risk of her getting exposed?
Yes, I wish. So I actually advised her to take some days off from work. Yes, her boss actually advised her to take some days off from work to actually make her, acclimatize with the whole situation before getting back to work. Because I was very worried in the initial stages because of our baby and myself as well. Yeah.
But hopefully you're getting sort of normalized. I'm going to bring you back, Dr. Suman, to find out. Some doctors have contracted COVID-19. At where you work, how would you assess your level of exposure, if I should put it that way?
Okay, so I work at Koi Pediatrics. It's a pediatric hospital, meaning we attend to children from 0 to 18 years. And our hospital is quite exposed. It's a Tema, but we have a lot of people coming in all the way from Accra, from Kaswa, everywhere in Greater Accra region. And we have a lot of foreigners. That's where the problem comes in, because we know people who have traveling history. So we make sure to always ask them immediately you get into the door. In fact, we have a trash outside our building, and we have a set of questions we give people to answer. Traveling history. We have a lot of the kids going to international schools, so we know maybe a colleague's mother or father would have traveled, got into contact with the child going to school, and then mix them with other kids as well. So yes, we are also at risk because at the end of the day, every frontliner health worker is at risk, because most of these cases we are recording in Ghana, most of them are asymptomatic. Later on, that's when the symptoms come in. So we are working with care. Our boss, Dr. Sayabwa, is also doing very well. She's acquired a couple of PPEs that we are using to protect ourselves.
Well, here at JoyNews, we are partnering with doctors in residency to raise funds to buy some of these PPEs. So do let us know perhaps how we can also support in your own small way, purchasing some of these PPEs. But then I also want to find out, yesterday, did you listen to the president?
Yes, please, I did.
Okay, so you certainly had a takeaway from there.
Yes, I did.
So we're told that people are the front lines, and I've spoken to Ghana Nurses and Midwifery Association. They think that it's not really clear who fits in the category of people that the president referred to. Is it clear to you?
It's not, because I'm on a couple of medical pages, most of them being doctors, and we're all asking this morning, who are the clear-cut frontliners? Who are going to have all these allowances as you were speaking? It's not clear. It's not clear.
Wow. So the association says they are seeking clarity, so I believe that they're trying to engage. We had the medical director in Kumasi, explain who frontline health workers are. He says it's everybody that's a health worker in these times. And that also, he indicated, includes private sector. And I believe that you fall within that private sector. But yes, now that it's not clear to you, are there any associations or organizations in the private sector, health private sector, that are seeking to reach out to the authorities for clarity?
There's an organization for practice health practitioners. I think my boss should have that information, and when she has it, she'll let us know. As of now, I still don't know what frontliner is actually.
But certainly you've come in contact with. Has your facility had any, at least, suspected case?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, but you're still exposed to people who are sick, who come in with all kinds of symptoms that you need to assess.
Yes. We do have lots of cases every day, actually, coming in with high fevers, cough, chest pain. We do.
Dr. Suman, I hope that we'll be able to have more of these conversations with you as you share your daily experiences with us. But in these times, have you had a greatest moment of fear and panic? What would that be?
Patients or generally?
Generally.
Generally, waking up and asking myself, am I going to work and coming back safely to my husband, to my mother, and to my baby? It's scary. My baby is just 10 months old, and when I watch BBC, read news, and CNN, and I see health workers dying, it's a fear. My baby is just 10 months, and I always pray. This morning I was praying, I touched there, and I told God, I'm using myself and my baby as a point of contact. That every health worker in Ghana should go to work and come back safely, because these babies, I told God, for the sake of Lubov, that's the name of my baby, for the sake of Boss Baby, that's what I call her, God, take me to work and bring me back safely in Jesus' name. So we are praying for all health workers. Please, the government should continue supporting us. Everyone should continue supporting us by staying at home. I need to be alive for my baby, please.
You will be alive. We will be alive. And this your bubbly, smiley self will certainly be alive to protect all of us. And you just got tears in my eye right now. And I believe that God will protect all of us, those of us who believe. And for us for the authorities or anybody else that ought to do something to make sure that physically we're taking care of it as well, we will. Thank you so much for bringing us into your home today, Dr. Suman. And hopefully we'll have some more conversations along the line. And thank you to your husband, Mr. Suman, as well, for allowing you to do this for all of us. I've been talking to Dr. and Mr. Suman. They described, like Dr. Hammond earlier, going out to work and coming back in these times of COVID-19 is a victory. They say anytime you move out and you come back is a major victory. I did did indicate earlier that we'll try and get an update on the situation in Nigeria. Let's go there right now. Journalist and also state house correspondent with Channels TV in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, joins us as usual. Hello, Kayla. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Right. So give us an update. What is the situation in Nigeria right now?
All right, well, there have been these daily briefings by the Minister of Health and then the task force that has been inaugurated by the president to check the spread of the disease and, of course, give out every sort of information. It gives journalists an opportunity to ask questions and, get clarification on issues. So that just ended. The number of cases we have in Nigeria right now has risen to 232. However, there is some good news. 33 people have been discharged so far, which is a good thing. Well, unfortunately, we have seen 5 people dead. So that's the situation. And of course, Lagos is still the epicenter with 120 people with COVID-19. The Federal Capital Territory, which is where I'm at, has 47. And then running closely behind the Federal Capital Territory is a state called Osun State with 20. So that's the situation here with the COVID-19 pandemic. But there are a lot of things going on. The federal government is releasing, they're planning to take 150 million from the Sovereign Wealth Fund as part of the ways to combat this disease. And of course, there's a relief fund that has been released, 500 billion naira released as a relief fund. We saw that today. We're also having some conversations around the fact that the Chinese government is sending doctors to Nigeria. Some people are for it, some people are against it. So that's going on as well. Yes.
Talk about 150 million that is being taken from, is this a sovereign treasury?
Sovereign wealth fund. Yes.
Right. Is that $50 million or 50 million naira? 150 million naira.
But the sovereign wealth fund is in dollars, $150 million from the sovereign wealth. Okay. That is, it's still being talked about. That hasn't been sorted out yet. We just saw that in the news. But what has been released is the intervention fund. There's an intervention fund of 500 billion naira. Now that one has been released, and that's what we're seeing today in the news.
I'm not quite sure in my head how much of money that is, but here in Ghana yesterday, our president announced some, incentives, if you like, for people. Like we're not supposed to pay water bills for the next, I think, 3 months. How exactly is Nigeria, cushioning the people in these times?
That's a very interesting question, because we're also seeing that from around the world, where we're seeing governments taking charge and saying, oh, don't pay taxes on this or don't pay rent on this. But for the Nigerian government, what we're seeing is donations, really. We're seeing donations from well-meaning Nigerians, a lot of donations. If I raise one of the questions people have, how is this money supposed to be shared? However, we did see, it's been going on right now, a disbursement of 20,000 naira to the poorest of the poor. So we have something called the National Social Register, and that has been in use since 2015. They were using it to help the poorest of the poor with something called trader money and other government interventions. So that register is going to be used is what is being used right now to distribute 20,000 naira to everyone who's on that list. Now, to be very clear, the people who are on that list are people who rely on the work that they do every day to feed. So we're talking maybe people who sell snacks on the roadside, people who have to, the money we'll get today is what we'll use to eat food. So those are the people who are in danger at this moment, according to the federal government, because there's a lockdown. They cannot go out and get the money that they need to survive. So they're saying this intervention is supposed to help them alleviate. They say there's going to be more being done. We're seeing some governments, the Lagos state government, for instance, distributing rice and oil and things for people to be able to feed themselves during this period.
Interesting. We'll wrap up, Kayla, but I just want to find out, are you working from home? I mean, life has changed a lot for those of us who are journalists. You seem to be in a different background, which is not the usual newsroom that we know. Are you working from home?
Yes, I am working from home. Today is my day off. Okay, so I am working from home today. It's important that we stay healthy, all right? Though, we're providing essential services, but you can't break down in the process. So the Channels TV does what it can to make sure that we stay healthy. So we kind of rotate it every week. Every day of the week, there's somebody that goes off work, so that you can rest and come back refreshed and continue what it is that you do.
Okay, there's a lot of donation going on here as well, but we'll certainly touch base with you again during the week for more of the updates from Nigeria. But
I was gonna add this before we go. Sorry about that. There's the question that you guys keep asking me about high-profile people. There's a governor who has tested negative. He tested positive earlier, but he just announced yesterday that he has tested negative. The Oyo State governor has tested negative. But just to show you how important Nigerian government is taking the compliance level here, there's a famous actress who was arrested yesterday with her husband. And the reason why she was arrested was because her name is Funke Akindele. I don't know if you guys know her. Yes. And her husband is called JJC. So she was arrested yesterday, charged to court, and she has been given, she's doing 14 days of community service and a fine of 100,000 naira for her and her husband. Naira Marley has also been arrested, and here's the reason why. They had a party at their house and shared visuals of the party on social media. And since then, the government has said, no, look, this is breaking the rules. We said no gatherings, so they were arrested. There's actually a manhunt right now for everyone who was at that party, so that they can face the law. That is how seriously the government of Nigeria is taking this lockdown. Many people, yes.
And I'll say that that's certainly how seriously we should take it. This is a big deal. So for the people who don't understand yet, if it has to take these strict and harsh measures to make them understand, I'll say it's in the right direction. Unfortunately, we've run out of time for today because of the smoothness of our connection today. We'll certainly read back. And so this is Funke. We just, Kayla, we just put up Funke's photo on the TV right now. So this person was arrested. She's been charged, given a hefty fine that she's paying because she did not obey the social distancing rules in Nigeria. Interesting action being taken by Nigeria.
Maybe that's why they're taking it very seriously with her. She was one of the faces for the coronavirus campaign. So the fact that she broke something that she's promoting, telling people to stay indoors and not gather, and then breaking that probably is the reason why this was very strict on her.
Yeah, we got you. Thank you so much, Kayla. Always a very interesting and exciting session when we cross over to you. Certainly during the week, we'll come back to you. Kayla Megwa, they're joining us from Channels TV, our partners in Nigeria. I almost said Germany. Our partners in Nigeria. And she gave us a very detailed update of what's happening in Nigeria. Nigerian authorities seem to be taking this matter very seriously. They just arrested a very popular actress and her husband, who is also supposed to be a face or a partner in the COVID-19 fight. So she was arrested for having a party, throwing a party in these times, and she's been charged. She's been given a hefty fine to pay along with her husband. So let's move away from Nigeria and come back to Ghana. There's been outrage and agitation at the Ashaiman market as some sellers say the military's explanation that a man in his mid-30s who was shot to death because he tried to disarm a soldier is inaccurate. The eyewitnesses claim that the deceased homeless truck pusher was killed after he was ordered by a soldier to leave the market.
Anymore higher. It's a meeting, Casacasa be here, there, Cosu, Amupamu, Obi, Anna, me Pia, Vegina store with that pillar way, baby, Papa, it's Naya, our pillar way in Chay. It's a pillar in China, Gina.
She said she was standing very close to a pillar here at the market. And again,
I know Gina.
Okay. I know that she was standing here.
Yeah.
Okay. So she is saying we cannot independently verify or confirm what she's saying. She's saying that the military man hit the deceased with a stick. Well, she's saying that the deceased got angry after he was hit with a stick, and then he collected the stick from the soldier.
And the two,
drop the stick.
And small boy be fire no the command, not na drug no so. It's a small body the command no catch and say on train or about being
Okay. One of the day Biano Komano.
Small boy be.
Okay. You speak English. So
yeah. He's one of small boy that we know who took the stone for the soldier man.
He took the stone or the stick?
The stick.
Okay.
For the soldier man because he was sitting at the truck.
Okay. Okay. And then when he gave the stick to the soldier, what happened?
Masa, mami kachi na mami kap.
Speak the English. Come from who you are there?
Me can't. So before he took the stick, and he said, "Wait and see, I'm coming."
That's what the soldier said.
Yes. So we were here when he took that Noyawa Ofochu, Michael Ofochu.
That's the deceased.
Yes. Take his this thing, as we know that he always train and use his strength for something, work for everything, pack people's things in this market. Everybody knows him. Before he was rolling the stone, training, the man come. We are standing here watching them. We thought maybe he wants to use the stick for him again, but not in the stick. What we will see, he just crack his gun. Before, I thought he was going to give a warning shot. But I was standing here with one of my mother here. She just put the gun on his throat. When the bullets get out of the back of his head, here, he just used tissue. Pick the bullets inside rubber and say, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry."
Wait, who said I'm sorry?
He's the soldier man who said, "I'm sorry."
The soldier said, "I'm sorry."
Yes, I was here after killing him. When the blood flowing like this, I was urinating. I even think my pregnant will abort. And one of my mother even go private. He even shit for her body. It's not very good. It's very bad. The president brought them to come and guide us, not to kill us.
And you say you witnessed all of this?
Yes. Any place they will call me, I'm witness. I will tell anybody. I will complain. I will speak because I'm not dumb and deaf. I will talk as far as I'm there. Yes.
Once again, let me tell our listeners that we cannot independently confirm and verify these claims by these eyewitnesses here at Assignment Market. But I just want you to wrap up with, I mean, in the final moments of Ofochu, what exactly happened? You said he was lifting stones?
Ofochu doesn't exactly a moving or even.
That's some eyewitnesses speaking to Maxwell Agbagba. Meanwhile, a Shaman Member of Parliament, Ernest Nobe, is describing the killing as wicked and barbaric. He says, contrary to the military's claim, there was disproportionate use of force and is therefore calling for an independent investigation into the killing.
Yeah, independent investigation, because when you look at the statement that the military has put out, it will preempt, it will tell you the findings of their investigation, that their investigation will come out. Because if they can tell you that the man was found, offending the narcotic rules for that matter, and he was struggling with the military officer and the rifle went off, you can predict what the outcome of the investigation will be. But I am saying that is not the reality on the ground. So we need independent investigators, we need independent investigative body to investigate the matter, because the youth are agitating. Okay. And since they are agitating, they must see the logical conclusion of what transpired, and they must know, because most of them were witnesses to what happened.
Okay, 30 seconds. You're also calling for the withdrawal of the police officers who were here on duty on that day. I'm sure they are not the same people, the military officers. I'm sure they are not the same people working here today.
Yeah, I'm calling for the removal of the military officers, not the police officers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, military officers.
Yeah, the military officers who were on duty here yesterday, because when the youth, it is normal when you see somebody who has taken the life of one of your own, you see them around. How will you feel? And that is where the agitation will come more. So I'm just advising the military hierarchy to withdraw all those people who were here yesterday. They can bring any other person to withdraw them. But let me tell you this. Ashama is a cosmopolitan community. People come to Ashama to trade. People come to Ashama, they don't have even homes in Ashama. They sleep
in front of kiosks. They sleep in front of people's stores. You understand me? So treatment of such people must be different from how you treat others. If somebody is sleeping in front of his kiosk and you come and sack the person to go home, to go to which home? That is his home, and he's sleeping there. As long as they are not clustered together, as long as they are not gathered together, you don't have that audacity to throw them out because they are here to trade, send money back home. Okay.
Member of Parliament for Chairman, Mr. Nogwe, there speaking to Maxwell Agbagba, and that's how we end the bulletin this hour. That's small news at myjoyonline.com when you do log on. My name is Gifty Ando Apia. Stay safe, stay at home, wash your hands, use sanitizers. Let's all beat COVID-19 together.